Well, hello. I'm on Vancouver Island. I'm on the west coast, not too far from Port Renfrew. You may recall, actually the first two videos I put on YouTube, I was making my way up the west coast from Victoria up to Port Renfrew. Now, originally I was going to come out with 3 videos, but I only posted 2 because the third one I didn't really have any great content. So I've come here to redeem myself. So I keep looking at my watch. I'm doing a 4-minute exposure with a Lee Big Stopper, which is a 10-stop ND filter. The light tonight, I thought it was going to be really quite spectacular, but it's turned out to be a little bit duller than I would hope. So I'm hoping to take really long exposures of the sea and the clouds moving across the frame here. And then behind me we have a sea stack with old trees on it. I think it's time to turn my camera off and see what we have here. Yeah. Fellow campers. Alright, now if you come on a photo trip to Port Renfrew, you have to stop off at Fairy Lake. Fairy Lake is just outside of town here, and the neat thing about Fairy Lake is that there's a little tiny, well actually it's not that tiny, it's quite large, there's a conifer, I think it's a hemlock, but don't quote me on that, growing out of an old stump. Now from my understanding, the tree has been here growing out of the lake now for close to 30 years. Now every time I come to Port Renfrew I take a photograph of this tree. Not all of them have been successful, but I've got some really great shots. It's a very simple composition. It's just, well basically it's just a tree growing out of a stump in the middle of a lake. It's kind of like Excalibur. But it's a very neat looking subject. And in the right light, in the right conditions, it can look amazing. So I'm going to start the morning photographing that, and then I'm going to move down to what's called the Avatar Grove, which is a small pocket of old growth forest, about 8 kilometers away from here. So that's the plan. Hopefully the weather holds off, and we'll see what we can do here. Right. Right, I photographed this tree many times before, and you know, sometimes I get a good shot out of it and sometimes not so much. It's more about the conditions or the lighting conditions that really emphasize the tree. Today it's extremely calm out, so there's a really nice reflection from the conifers in the background. The difficulty lies with trying to eliminate the sky. Because it's cloudy today, you have to get quite low to try and get that nice green background. If you're too high, you include a lot of the sky, and it's really distracting. Now, the only problem with getting down low here is because we're on the side of the road, we're already higher than the tree, and there's a lot of brush on the side of the road here. And so if you get down too low, you get the brush in front of the lens. If you get too high, you get too much of the sky. Now you can walk down to the edge of the lake, kind of have to bushwhack down here, but as soon as you do that, then the little conifer kind of merges with the line that separates the lake from the trees. So that doesn't work either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of compromise. I've got down as low as I can without getting shrubbery or branches in the way. And I also only get a few hints of sky, and what I'll have to do is just kind of clone them out in Photoshop. Well, this is a bit of a stroke of luck. This is beautiful. This reminds me of that waterfall that I photographed when I came to Vancouver Island last time, Payzant Creek. But because we've had so much rain, the rivers and the streams are really swollen right now, so this is a great time to photograph them. I just love this this log up here with the tree growing out of it. That's called a nurse log, and then there's some more logs behind with little waterfalls and cascades coming down. So yeah, this should make a really nice scene to photograph. Great. Okay, I seem to be having a little bit of problem with lens flare because there's a tiny sliver of sky just above the fallen tree here. It's hitting the polarizer and causing some flare. So luckily I have this, this is from my old 4x5 days, it's called a flare buster. It works okay, it's not great, but what it just has a couple of alligator clamps with a wire, and then I use my old grey card from my 4x5 days, and I just use that to get rid of any flare rather than using my hand. Seems to work pretty good, except when it's windy out, it doesn't work so great. Okay, I'm having a few problems with the wide angle because it's so wide. I just can't get rid of that flare. So I think what I'm going to try and do is eliminate a little bit more of the nurse log, the big one with the tree growing out of it, back up with a slightly longer lens, maybe a 24 to 120, give that a go. The only problem with that is I don't have an awful lot of room to move back, but let's see what we can do here. It's just gorgeous, very typical of kind of how I envision you know, the temperate rainforest on the west coast here, with all the falling logs and the stream coming through with the mossy rocks. The weather looks like it's going to start raining again, so I guess I better get a move on here. Anyway, that's the plan. Long lens, back up, see if we can get rid of that flare. Okay, it just suddenly got really dark all of a sudden. All hell's going to break loose any minute now. I'm going to have to make a hasty retreat. It's starting to rain again, and I'm almost out of battery power. I do have extra batteries, but I have to recharge them with my generator. So I'm going to head back out to the car, charge up some batteries, and then hopefully we'll get a bit of a lull in the weather again, and I'll come out again. But this was a really great spot, so I'm glad I found this. I guess it's just going to be retreat to the car, take a few shots, retreat to the car, and so forth. All right, back to the car I go. Okay, the rain stopped briefly again, but I'm gonna have to make this quick because my battery's almost dead on my little camera here. This is known as Canada's gnarliest western red cedar, and as you can see, it's quite rooty. It's an amazing tree. Now the reason why it has a rope around it, these western red cedars, actually a lot of these trees have very shallow root systems, and even though they're really large trees, if you clamber around on the bottom of them, it wears all the topsoil away, and it makes them vulnerable to a whole bunch of different things. Now photographically, I have tried to photograph this before, and I haven't had much success with it. I'll give it another go, more for a record shot than anything. Part of the problem again is as soon as you start pointing your camera up like this, you start getting a lot of white sky in there. And as far as scale goes, it's difficult because unless someone's sitting on the root system, you can't really see you know, how big this tree really is. The backside of it is quite rotten, so I think this tree's days are probably numbered. But anyway, it's a beauty for sure.